Yo, what up, peeps, and welcome to Entertainment Rewind, the hottest show to listen to live on YouTube, Anchor FM, and Disney XD. I am your majestic
Disney XD. We got that contract?
Yes.
Cool, all right.
I am your host, Fuzzy, and I am joined by... And I am joined also by...
Ambrose. I remembered mine.
We have an excellent show planned for you, so sit down, grab some snacks in your Mountain Dew 6-pack as we unbox our top 10 favorite video games. Now, there might be some similarities between the three of us, but it's okay, because it'd be interesting to see how they compare. So, PasMorning, what is your top 10?
Alright, so, Neo Cortex from Crash Bandicoot series.
Really? Is that low?
Yeah, well, he's been... Think of it like the Spyro series, like each one has a different final boss.
True.
And Neo Cortex is in like all the Crash games. He's kind of played out a little bit. So, yes, he's very memorable, but he's not in one standalone title.
True.
So, yeah, it's 10. I like him, but he's so memorable to the point where I could almost not care about him.
Especially because he's only the final boss, like the first game.
Yep.
And then, and the other ones down the line. Like
Right,
and stuff.
but he is like in all of them in one way or another. So
yeah.
He's so memorable that he's not as important to me.
And not to mention, he doesn't ever really succeed at what he's trying to do.
No, he does not.
He gets beaten by a stupid marsupial.
Yeah, he does.
Mine is Alma from Fear. Now, I'm not sure if either of you guys have played Fear, but Alma is this 8-year-old antagonist who has powerful psychic powers who goes against this giant corporation due to the experimentation that went on with her. And it kind of feels a little bit like Stranger Things and also Heavy Rain in that element, because you do have that child who's getting experimented on and does escape.
I tell you, I don't know about you, but children are creepy.
They are. They're really
Especially
creepy.
the possessed. Now, I did play that one, and I did see Alma. She is legitimately creepy.
She can cast nightmares. She can send spirits to come and kill you pretty quickly. She's really something really nasty to deal with.
Now, I don't remember the game too much, but didn't she like blow someone's head up just by thinking about it or something? Yeah.
Wasn't there a part in one of the games where like she tries to have sex with you or something like that? Or
I'm not sure.
I thought that was something like
I believe in the first one she was she had an experiment, and weird soldier things that are running around and stuff are her kids.
Yeah, it was something like that.
There is sex related to that, I think, but I don't quite remember.
I don't remember.
What about you, Ambrose?
Well, I think my number 10 is gonna probably piss you guys off a little bit because it's the one that we share between the three of us. But my number 10 is the Great Mighty Pooh of Concord.
Really?
Yeah.
That low?
Really?
It's that low. Mostly
I would
because
have thought that would have been like 5 or at least.
well, the ones that he's number 10 only because not because I don't like him, but because all the rest of them just beat him out basically. But to me, the reason he's number 1 is just because of his song, or number 10 is because of his song. The Great
Mighty Pooh.
Yeah. So really, that's the most memorable thing about him is his song. Like when I think of the Great Mighty Pooh, I don't really think of his boss fight, which is still cool. You know, throwing toilet paper at him is an interesting concept for a boss fight.
You literally have to flush him.
Right.
Yeah,
but I think of his song. So like, as far as actual like villainy goes, he's not that great of a villain, but he's memorable in the sense that he's got a great song to go with him and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that.
PasMorning, number 9.
Number 9 is the Elusive Man from Mass Effect.
Ooh.
I hear good things. I've never played Mass Effect series, so
Mass Effect. If you're only ever gonna play one Mass Effect game, I would say play Mass Effect 2.
Okay.
1 was okay, but it was kind of bare bones, and 3 people really didn't like, and Andromeda ended up people didn't like that one either. But number 2 was great, and yeah, Elusive Man. He is, as the name entitles, elusive. No one really knows who he is, but he's the antagonist in a lot of things. Human experimentation, trying to control the Reapers for his own nefarious deeds. The Reapers are literal giant genocide robots that he tries to control. I haven't played it in a while, so I guess I don't have too much to say on him, but he is a villain I love to hate. I hate the guy so freaking much, but he is very memorable to me.
My number 9 pick is... I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda.
So is your number 9 villain diabetes?
Yes. Well, that's you, but
Essentially, he is, yes.
Well, we're talking about Big Smoke from San Andreas in Grand Theft Auto. Now, I had no idea that he was going to turn into this huge antagonist and completely sidestepped me.
Isn't that the guy who's the cop, that Samuel Jackson?
He's friends with the cop.
Oh, he's friends with the cop.
But when I was looking back at it, I realized, you know what, that makes a lot of sense because he didn't partake in the shootout when the enemy came to shoot up CJ and the other crew members, and why he was just so obsessed with his food.
Whoa,
because he
Doesn't he end it once he finishes his food? Doesn't he start shooting?
No,
I thought he did.
I don't think he does.
No, okay.
See, I can't do.
Yeah, because the whole time while they're getting shot at, he's sitting in the back, eating his Big Mac or something.
Well, dude's got his priorities.
Yeah, he got his priorities.
But it just completely sidestepped me that he would sign up with the enemy gang territory and also with the police. And, I do kind of feel a little bit bad for him because he just wanted to be successful in life. He wanted to have fame and money, but he just went about it the wrong way.
See, I can't do Grand Theft Auto villains because I never played much of the stories in those games. I usually just went around and killing people and blowing crap up.
See, that was the big problem I had too. I never even got that. But I know who Big Smoke is, but I didn't get to the big reveal at the end.
Right.
That's what I
a lot
was
of
doing.
the lot of the stuff I know from the stories of those games are just because I watched YouTube videos that talk about, this happened in this game. It's like, I just killed things.
Because the moment you're allowed to move around is like the first moment where you decide, how many people can I go after? What can I do? Where's the weapons at? Yeah, I never really played the storyline.
I think that's one of the beauty of those games too, is that you could have hours and hours of fun with that game and never touch the story once.
Exactly.
Right.
So I can get behind that. I don't know Big Smoke very well, so I'm gonna have to just take your word for it though.
Very comedic character.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that scene.
I enjoy comedic villains, and hey, a guy who has to eat his food before being villainous, that's a guy I can relate to.
What is your number 9 pick?
My number 9 is actually a villainous group, not just a villain. But I chose Team Rocket from the original Pokemon Red and Blue. The main reason why I gotta say that it's so low on this list is only because it's a group who is led by a big mob dude, and the whole group gets taken out by a 10-year-old. Like, that kind of says a lot about it right there.
It's a mob that doesn't know how to be a mob, honestly.
Right. And I mean, part of it too is like Team Rocket, you think of like Jesse and James from the Pokemon anime.
And Meowth.
And how just horribly bad they are at everything they do. But the reason it's on the list at all is because as a kid, that was like my first experience with like the evil people in video games, because it's like this guy is trying to steal all the Pokemon. I gotta stop this guy. I gotta stop this team. It's like that makes sense. And they do some pretty terrible things in that game. Like, it's implied that Team Rocket are the ones who killed Marowak and left the baby orphan Cubone, which in the new Pokemon Let's Go games, they went horribly depressing with that, where not only does it just show little orphan Cubone, it actually shows Team Rocket manipulating him and trying to get him to follow them and all that kind of stuff, and it's just horribly depressing. But it's interesting because they're just trying all this stuff, and a 10-year-old kid just kind of comes in and just wipes them out. Granted, that 10-year-old kid is a badass, but not the point.
Right.
Yes, what is your 8th pick?
Wesker from Resident Evil.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I almost would have thought like someone like Wesker should almost be higher. Like, just...
Yeah, he's a pretty tough guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggle with that. Yeah, fuck Wesker. And that should probably be all I
That's all you have to say right there.
Yeah.
Hashtag fuck Wesker.
Right. The first time I experienced Wesker was in the Resident Evil 5 game, which is still one of my favorites, despite the fact that you can't move and shoot at the same time. That's so stupid.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I didn't like it. You have to, you got hordes of zombies running at you, and you have to sit there and aim.
Yeah, that was so annoying. I needed that.
And when you finally get to fight Wesker in his full glory, like, all his moves are one-hitter quitters. So you can't afford to just sit there and, aim at him. But, sure enough, you do get the job done. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, fuck Wesker. And what's yours?
Well, my number 8 pick, he cannot compare to either of you guys is down your list, because this guy is one of the most badass villains of all time. He is such a pain in the ass.
He's only number 8?
Yes, because there are villains who are underneath him, but still, he's just so fucking annoying. Now, I'm talking about Tom Nook from Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Screw Nook.
Despite how friendly and helpful he is, from the get-go, this motherfucker decides to break into your house non-stop and charges you for every little thing. You realize that he's no different than a mobster and that you're always going to be in debt to him.
Yeah, see, Animal Crossing gives you that aspect where you can, like, do anything that essentially, you know, it's mostly like a house building simulator, but you always have Nook, like, looming over you, reminding you that, you know, still pretty much owns you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get further, you just have to pay him back. And it's not like you ask for, all that stuff either.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, screw that.
Yeah, a lot of people like Animal Crossing games. I've never actually gotten that into them. I thought they were kind of boring.
I can see that. I mean, it can get really repetitive.
Yeah, but I definitely see, just from what I've heard other people say, that Tom Nook is an asshole. Like, I can clearly see where they're going with that.
Now that we're talking about Nook, a thing just occurred in my mind that I should have put him on my list. Rossetti from the same game. If you turn off that game consistently without saving it, he will delete your file.
I remember that.
Yeah, so just hastily, turning it off and stuff enough times, and he will delete it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I can understand why that would be frustrating. Yeah. I know Rossetti and Nook are like two characters that like everybody even people who don't like Animal Crossing know who they are because of how notorious they are.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yeah, I can see where you're coming from, even though I personally myself don't care much for the games. But
so what is your number 8?
Well, my number 8, I decided to go a little lesser known on the video game front. I picked Captain LeChuck from Secret of Monkey Island. Now,
does this island have a bunch of monkeys, or is it just a name?
It's a secret.
Aww.
So Monkey Island is a game that came out years ago, and it's a point and click kind of type game, but it's an adventure game made by LucasArts, so made by George Lucas, same guy who did Star Wars and all that stuff. And it's a hilarious game. Like the whole point is about this guy named Guybrush Threepwood. Weirdest name ever, but he's
right.
He's aspiring to be a pirate, and so the whole game is him trying to find Monkey Island, like figure out what the secret of Monkey Island is and all this stuff. And LeChuck is the bad guy. He's the undead pirate who is basically trying to kidnap the governor, Elaine Marley, and marry her, while Guybrush Threepwood, he's the bumbling pirate guy who really only happens to do things right because it's an accident type thing. Like he just stumbles upon doing it right by accident. And so the whole game is LeChuck trying to kidnap Elaine Marley, and then Guybrush just kind of happening to stumble on the wedding and stopping it and stuff like that. And
I see.
And this is a series of games, and in the second one, it's interesting because it's implied, like at the end, that it was all kind of a dream, and that Guybrush Threepwood and LeChuck are actually just kids in an amusement park. So it's kind of weird how the whole thing sets up, but they're great little games. They're short games. You can probably finish them in like a couple hours, and there's really no way to die in them. It's just all about the adventure. But LeChuck, plus if you play the game, he's kind of a creepy looking dude too, especially in the second game where you're trying to escape from his fortress and he'll just show up on screen randomly and electrocute you. You're just like, what the hell just happened? I don't even know where that came from.
Right.
So yeah, LeChuck is number 8.
I might have to go check that game out.
It's a pretty fun game. I think you can find it on Steam.
That has always been a game that's like I've never played it, but I've always been aware of it, and it has been on my list of something to try eventually.
Yeah, it's a great game. I've only played the first 2. I've been meaning to get around and playing some of the other ones, but the first 2 are good, especially because if you buy the remastered one, you can actually switch between the old school 8-bit graphics and like the new graphics.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Aspect.
So it's pretty fun.
So who starts up the next one?
So PasMorning, what's your number 7?
Crypto from Destroy All Humans.
Crypto the Super Dog?
Crypto the Super Dog.
No. Crypto the Alien from the Destroy All Humans series.
Oh, that was a good game.
It was.
It was a very good game. The reason why I picked him is not only is he, the alien that's essentially looking to wipe out the human race so that he can save his own race so that they don't starve. Shit, where was I going with all that? But yeah, not only that, you get to play as this villain. You get to murder the humans, harvest their brain stems, and pretty much cause worldwide panic and issues. Fly around in your spaceship, become the president. He actually does become the president in the first one. He feeds humans to humans.
I must not have played the game very long, because I don't remember all this stuff.
It was the one for the Wii. Where,
the Wii?
Yeah, they made one for the Wii.
Huh.
Yeah.
I feel like I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, they make a little quip about, you know how how, like, when you kill someone in a game and walk around the board and they spawn?
Yeah.
Well, they made that joke where it was like, what did you think happened to them? I'm like, I thought they just disappeared. They're like, no, I've been collecting them and turning them into burgers and feeding them to people.
Oh.
And you actually get to control a big boy ripoff statue. That was cool.
Man, we should play Destroy All Humans again. That game was fun.
Oh, I'm down.
You know, I don't know if it's just me, but when I remember playing Destroy All Humans, I always thought of Invader Zim for some reason.
That's
Like
fair.
the alien kind of reminded me of Invader Zim.
I can
for some
see
reason.
that.
Except for that Crypto does at least accomplish his goals in one way or another, whereas Invader Zim starts off with something smart for like the dumbest reasons, and for whatever reason fails. Not dissing Invader Zim, big Invader Zim fan. There's a movie of Invader Zim coming out at some point.
Spoiler.
Yeah, it's called Invader Zim Enter the Florpus, and that is all I know about it.
Huh.
So I don't know if it came out.
Field trip.
You're right. I don't know if it came out, is gonna come out, if it's a TV show, movie, whatever, but there you go.
Number 7, Fuzzy.
Now, I'm going to go old school, and I wish I remembered this last week when we were talking about boss fights. But
Okay.
But I'm going old school and going to say Jack of Blades from Fable. Now, I was a huge fan of the only Fable game that came out technically. If memory serves correctly, this dude was terrifying, his powers beyond bounds. He basically makes civilization fall 3 separate times because he wants people to worship him, along with the Queen and the Knight of Blades. And all 3 times they refuse, and he makes them surrender their lives. This dude, the fight between him as a human is badass. The fight when he turns into a dragon is badass.
Well, that is in the Lost Chapters, where you find out that Jack of Blades is not just a dude, he's a possessed mask.
Mm-hmm. That basically kills people.
And in the original one, you finally get reunited with your sister and your mother, just to watch this dude kill your mom, to make this awesome sword, whatever, strong and powerful during the last fight in the original Fable. It does go on further in Lost Chapters, which I agree.
Mm-hmm. The things I know about Fable are the things that my friend would do when he was playing the game, where he would
run up and kick some chickens and become the chicken kicker.
No, where he would do it where, like, I think I haven't played Fable much myself. I played it with some of the original one on my friend's Xbox because I never owned an Xbox myself.
If you are ever gonna try and get into a Fable game, I would say do Fable Lost Chapters.
That's the only Fable game that exists.
Yeah, Fable 2 and 3 just got so cutesy, and like they did innovative things, but it just lost like all gameplay for me.
Because that's what I was gonna say is that, like, Peter Molyneux, the guy who did Fable, apparently like promised a lot of things in the games, and then that just didn't come. So honestly, the villain of Fable should be Peter Molyneux. Like, duh.
Yeah,
right.
This is from what I understand. Obviously, I haven't played the games that much. So games I enjoy when I did play them, so I wouldn't mind going back and doing them at some point. But
what about you, Ambrose?
Number 7. All right, so this is a little bit of a surprising pick for being as low as he is, considering who he is. I mean, he's the villain of villains if you look at it. But I chose Bowser.
Ooh.
Yeah,
it just seems like an easy one to pick,
Yeah.
but it doesn't make it any less relevant.
Right.
I mean,
Well, that's part of the reason why I put him lower, is just because he's the obvious choice. And personally, I don't really think of Bowser being all that competent of a villain.
No, but he basically had a hand in creating what villains are today.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. He's like the
yeah.
villain of villains in a way, where he's like the one when you think of villain, you think of Bowser, you know. And I mean, he tries numerous times to kidnap the princess and do all this stuff.
Sometimes for unclear reasons.
Well,
Most of the time for unclear
he
reasons.
made Bowsette.
Okay,
That's
hold
a
up
meme.
now. Hold up now. Go away. Get out.
You know that meme too.
I know the meme. I know the meme.
Oh, they got parody animations that make your head turn.
Ooh. Anyways. So yeah, Bowser. So yeah, he's low on the list mainly because as far as villains go, as much as I love him and I love the Mario series, he's not a super great villain. I mean, he'll kidnap Peach and get his ass kicked by Mario, and then the next week he's going around Mario Karting with him. Like, That's not what a villain does, man. You don't go carding with the enemy.
Yeah, see, that's the same reason why I picked Neo-Cortex. He's very well known, but that's kind of his downfall, too.
Right. And I mean, so that's kind of the thing about it, too. And there's even a lot of things where it talks about Bowser potentially not really being all that villainous, quote unquote. Well, and then there's the whole thing in Super Mario Sunshine. Underrated Mario game, in my opinion. I love Super Mario Sunshine. But the whole thing they did with Bowser Jr. thinking that Peach was his mother, there's some disturbing implications in that I was not comfortable with as a child.
Right. Yeah, your mind immediately goes into, like, why and how. Especially how.
Right. Like a giant turtle dragon thing. And you know what? Let's just stop it there.
Right.
So yeah, Bowser. Great villain. Like I said, arguably the poster child for villains everywhere. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the reason why I put him so low. Because he's the standard choice. I didn't want to put him too high because just for being what he was.
Right, for sure.
Alright.
PasMorning, what's your number 6 pick?
Well, the one I picked is, I pretty much have the same reasoning. Dr. Eggman from the Sonic series.
Yeah.
When you think of villains, you would most likely think of Dr. Eggman, a super genius who is not necessarily a genius. I like how no matter what robots he has following him, that he himself made, are all incompetent. Mm-hmm. They're all idiots, they fumble, they have problems. So yeah, he starts off world domination, blow up the moon, trying to conquer the world, and then inevitably fails for one reason or another. But yeah, Dr. Eggman is one of those villains that you think of when you think villains. So he is kind of lower on the list just for that reason.
Yeah, and I mean, he's supposed to be a genius, but he's also kind of an idiot. Like, how do you justify that kind of stuff? Like,
right.
He's a mad scientist.
Yeah.
Right, and a lot of the mad scientist types, whatever, tend to go for... Now he's considered more of a comedic kind of villain. Everybody likes Dr. Eggman, if only to make fun of him.
Right. I mean, his name itself is making fun of him, because technically his name is actually Robotnik.
Yep.
But he gets called Eggman by Sonic and them because he looks like a giant Eggman.
Yes,
so it's not even really his name, technically. But hey, who are we kidding? The real villain of the Sonic series is the developer.
Right.
There hasn't been a good Sonic game in years.
It has been a while, and that's part of maybe he would be higher up on the list if I was more compelled to play some of the newer ones.
Right.
Fuck Sonic Boom. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I mean, I'm just gonna say, ever since Sonic 06, I steered clear of Sonic in general. Like, ever since Sonic 06, I'm just like, I'm done with this series pretty much.
Sonic Heroes was the last one I really I invested my time into.
And just think, there's a Sonic movie coming out soon.
Yeah, with Jim Carrey playing Eggman.
You know what?
Which could actually make it good, but at the same time, I'm really skeptical as to how that's going to work.
I'm really skeptic because I'm having PTSD thinking about when we were talking about Detective Pikachu. And I'm thinking, oh god, what are they going to do to Eggman? Is he going to look as horrific as Mr. Mime and Lickitung?
And Ludicolo?
Yeah, and his animations change a lot in different games. He can go from looking almost human all the way almost to looking like a cartoon egg.
Yeah.
They one thing about the Sonic series that I do like is that each series that they put out, they do drastically change the art style, which is cool.
Which they're always trying to keep it fresh.
Right. It keeps it fresh in the way it looks, not necessarily in the way it plays.
Right. But plus, I mean, Eggman got, probably the coolest mustache ever.
Oh,
so he gets points for that one.
No, art. Yeah, you got a stash.
Alright, Fuzzy, what's your number 6 pick?
Now, my number 6 picks is the Gygas. I'm probably butchering that.
From Earthbound, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gygas.
The guy who looks like a fetus.
Yes.
He is a fetus.
That too.
Now, if you haven't played Earthbound or Earthbound Beginnings or Mother 3, then you're missing out because that game...
So, pretty much everyone in the U.S.
But if you haven't...
Didn't they only ever put one out in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But if you haven't played either of these, you're missing out because a lot of critics and the gaming community as a whole say that this is one of the greatest video games in 1994. But we're not here to talk about Earthbound, but we're talking about the Gygas, which I'm still probably mispronouncing, so forgive me.
I think you're right. I think it's Gygas.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Now, the thing is, they're known as the embodiment of evil. They have the power to influence animals and creatures to turn against you. So, I mean, to me, that's pretty pretty badass and really makes them deserve the number 6 spot.
You know, it's interesting because part of what makes a good villain is a good theme song. Mm-hmm. And from what I remember of Earthbound, which I haven't played, but you know, Earthbound is one of them ones who constantly gets featured in gaming journalism for being one of the best. And what I remember from Gygas is it is notorious for having very, very eerie music. Mm-hmm. Almost in the sense where like it can almost make you feel uncomfortable. Yeah. Kind of like the Lavender Town music from Pokemon, how there were all them rumors about kids getting sick and all that stuff and hearing about it. And all that. Yeah. And like that's kind of what reminds me of like the Earthbound music too of Gygas, is that it's just very eerie, it makes you feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing for a villain to have. Like a villain should make you feel a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Right, and also the fact of what he is, if I'm not mistaken, you go back in time to fight him in his weakest form, which is essentially a fetus, and you're fighting giant fetus monster Gygas, and the screen's moving around, they got the creepy music, it very obviously is like almost an inhuman thing that you are fighting.
I will say though, I really wasn't too fond of the big boss fight at the end, because basically you weaken him by just praying with everybody, which to me seems a little bit lazy.
Yeah, it almost seems kind of like a cop-out. Like.
Mm-hmm. But do you actually get to fight him, or do you just, like, you actually fight him and defeat him, and then it's a cutscene where you pray, or...?
You pray with the people, if I remember correctly, and then he becomes weaker, and then you basically make him go out of existence. Oh, if my memory serves correctly. It's been a while since I've played Earthbound, but it is one of my ones that I did max out the time when I had it.
I don't know, it almost feels like...
for 10 minminutes. So.
Well, I played for like 30 seconds because it was featured in the Super Smash Bros. For Wii U as one of the classics that you could play for like a minute or so.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, it almost feels like based on that, Gygas should almost be a little higher. It feels like. So I'm interested to see what you got for 1 through 5. The people who could beat out Gygas like that.
Mm-hmm. So I think I'm personally excited to see what the 1 through 5s are.
Oh yeah, the 1 through 5s. That's going to be the big one. So.
It is.
Like especially, and you're going to find out in a second when I talk about this. What my number 6 is, but like I picked the sort of sillier villains towards the bottom because I like them, but they're kind of they're joke characters. And when you get closer to the top, you're going to find out the characters who are like the badass ones. Mm-hmm.
So your number 6.
So, after Bowser, I think it's appropriate to go to another famous video game villain that I love. King K. Rool, specifically from Donkey Kong 64, is like one of my favorite appearances.
Right, for sure.
But, you know, Donkey Kong in general, King K. Rool is, it's kind of a weird character.
Oh, he is weird.
He's definitely a weird character. And it's been a long time since I played the game, but I remember playing Donkey Kong 64 was like my favorite game as a kid. Still probably one of my top 10 favorite video games of all time. I love that game. Mm-hmm. And I just remember, you know, him sitting in his chair, you know, doing the whole breathing thing that he's doing with his little alligators and all that stuff, and just basically ruining the life of Donkey Kong from his chair. Like that's kind of badass in and of itself. Like he did all this stuff just from his chair, not ever even getting out.
Right.
Which is what so it's pretty fun. And he's a fun character because of all the things he does. At one point, he becomes a pirate captain in one of the Donkey Kong Country games. At the end of Donkey Kong 64, you box with him, which is kind of cool.
There's also I'm not sure what it's from, but it's an animated thing where King K. Rool actually sings.
Yeah, there's the Donkey Kong Country cartoon, which I actually had as a child, and I thought it was actually kind of funny.
I just watched that recently.
Yeah, it's a musical thing, and there's a scene where King K. Rool talks about, I don't even remember what he was singing about. He was singing about something, I don't remember. Right. But so like King K. Rool, again, kind of one of the villains that you don't really take super seriously because,
but is at the same time very serious.
Yeah, he's one of them characters that you don't take seriously, but he really wants to be taken seriously. But as a fat alligator, like how can you take him all that seriously?
He's a fat alligator.
Right,
he eats people.
So
I mean, that's what I would be.
So that's why like he's one of my favorite video game villains, and which is why when I saw he got announced for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I lost my shit. Like I was super excited to have him in there.
I was too.
So
for sure.
I think King K. Rool. He doesn't quite break the top 5 just because.
Is that the penguin and has a giant hammer?
Yes.
Hey, I know stuff.
No, that's King Dedede, you doofus.
Oh.
Yeah, King K. Rool is the giant green alligator with the one bulgy eye in the crown.
Oh.
He's the antagonist in the Donkey Kong series.
Yeah. Okay.
I
was
close. But
they both had King in their names.
True.
But no, so King K. Rool, number 6. I think that's a good place to put him. He doesn't quite break the top 5, but he's pretty good up there. All right, now we're in the top 5 category. If if it's okay with you, I'd like to do a couple honorable mentions. Yeah, so at this point, I think it's nice to put some honorable mentions in characters that didn't quite make the top 10 list. I don't know if either of you guys have any. So when I made my list of video game characters, I limited myself a little bit. I specifically only chose characters that are like originated in video games, and I wanted to do one per franchise, except I double dipped on one particular franchise, which you'll see later. Spoiler alert. So one honorable mention that I have is Joker from the Batman Arkham games.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's a comic book character more than anything, but just
he's
him.
Everything there now.
Yeah, but he originates in comic books,
yeah.
so I couldn't put him in necessarily just from that own thing. But the fact that, like, what he does in Arkham City, where he basically poisons Batman, like that's pretty badass.
Yeah.
Like he basically almost succeeds in killing Batman in Arkham City.
Right.
I'm gonna play that.
Oh, it's a good game. Arkham City is a great game. Arkham Knight's actually pretty good too. Not as good as Arkham City, but so Joker, I put him in there, and another one that I had to put in was Maleficent from Kingdom Hearts because for the original Kingdom Hearts game, you think she's the villain the whole game.
No, she thinks she's the villain.
She thinks she's and as players, you're led to think that she's the big bad. She's the one you're going after.
Right.
And then of course you find out later that Ansem is actually the bad guy.
Else.
But she's kind of like, for being what she is, she's kind of intimidating in that game too. Like
she is.
She's the one pulling all the strings. She's the one manipulating Riku to make him be what he is. And so I wanted to put her in the list, but because she's a Disney character, I didn't feel right putting her as a video game character. Anybody have any other honorable mentions they wanted to mention? I did have one more, but I'll save it for later because it's going to give away one of my top 5 picks. So
honorable mention. Well, one that almost made it on the list, which kind of sad that it didn't. Majora for Majora's Mask. Not Skull Kid, the mask itself.
Right.
Which is a sentient bastard in the form of a mask. Love the game, love the concept of, like, the not really into possession things too much, but it worked in that game, and, like, right off rip, turns you into an inhuman monster, and then whips right into the next thing where he's chucking a moon at the town. Like, fast transition, just consistently getting worse. So, yeah, definitely Majora's Mask is one of my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Fuzzy, you got any honorable mentions? Anything you wanted to put in, but you didn't quite?
Boss from Far Cry 3. I don't know if anyone else here has played
Far Cry.
I haven't played it, but I know pretty much everything.
Like, right from the get-go, murders your brother, and then lets you go just so that he can chase you down.
Yeah.
And giving you life lessons in insanity. It's just the guy that you just want to murder the whole way through.
And then you find out he's not even the villain.
He is not even the main dude, and
which actually disappointed a lot of people too.
Right, I can't really say I super enjoyed the fight that you have to do with them because it's more of a trip out kind of thing, where you just have to make it to the end of the thing and then you got them. When there was better trip out fights, you got to fight the demon with like exploding arrows. That was a fun fight. Super enjoyed that one. So yeah, Boss from Far Cry 3 is an honorable.
I do have one more, just to keep brief. Heihachi Mishima from Tekken.
Okay.
I didn't put him on the list because it feels weird to put a fighting game character on the list because in those games sometimes there's not like a clear-cut person who's like the villain necessarily.
Right.
But it's definitely Heihachi Mishima because the dude throws his son into a volcano at one point. Just because he thinks that there's a devil gene in, which turned out to be right. But I mean, Heihachi Mishima, he's like the worst freaking dude ever. And he's an old motherfucker too, so you wouldn't think he's all that strong, but he's beefy as hell. So just he gets on my honorable mentions list just because of the fact that he throws his son off of a cliff and into a volcano and throws his grandson out of a moving helicopter. Heihachi Mishima. So alright, with that being said, if we don't have any more honorable mentions, top 5 starting now. So number 5.
Sephiroth from everything.
From everything.
From everything.
He's in everything now.
I don't remember him being in Mario.
I'm not saying. Yeah, no, he was just watching the background. No, not him being in everything, but everything he's ever been in. Any influence that Sephiroth is in there, he is the guy. He is arguably the most memorable villain in Final Fantasy history. I won't get into any spoilers, but he does do something in number 7 that really cements the hatred that people have for Sephiroth.
I mean, the game's been out for like 20 years, so.
Right, but I still don't.
There's the remake coming out, so, maybe not want to do spoilers.
I don't know. Well, by what I saw in the remake, it's more of a redo than a remake.
Yeah.
They're changing the play style of it completely, so
Right.
I don't even know if you consider that a remake. It looks good, but then again, I liked how it looked before, too.
Oh, yeah. So I gotta agree with you, though. As far as, like, memorable goes, Sephiroth is definitely the one for Final
That
Fantasy.
motherfucker has his own theme song.
Yeah.
He seriously has his own theme song.
And arguably, for one thing, he's got fantastic hair.
Yes, he does.
The one thing, though, that I think weakens Sephiroth just a little bit is throughout the game, he seems kind of like he's a little whiny. I mean, you understand why, because of what happened with his mother.
Right.
But at the same time, you're like,
He
okay.
got mommy issues.
He got mommy issues, clearly. But no, Sephiroth, like, when you're a kid playing Final Fantasy for the first time, that's like the dude you're like, oh, this motherfucker needs to die. Like, the fact that spoiler alert, he burns down Niflheim. And he destroys your hometown. Like, that's crazy. Like, the dude is like the closest, probably almost one of the closest a villain ever gets to actually succeeding.
Right, for sure. So yeah, Sephiroth from everything. Not just the game he originated in, but also the Advent Children movie.
Which is a great movie.
Which was a great movie. I know that's not a video game, but
it
plays off
ties
of
in
it.
there, though.
Yeah, it plays off of it, which also influences it. And he was also in the Kingdom Hearts series.
Yep.
Kingdom
With
Hearts,
like the most badass boss fight in the whole first game.
Right. Even in number 2, arguably the toughest boss
Well,
to defeat.
second toughest in the final mix version once Lingering Well comes out. But.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't play the
No,
that
yeah,
one, but yeah.
Yeah, it's still right though.
So yeah, Sephiroth.
I am going to reveal my number 5 pick right after this B-roll. Has this ever happened to you? I hate cups, and I'm not some filthy peasant. Well, lucky you. Today's sponsor comes from generic plastic straws that you can put in your cup and sip your preferred beverage out of them. Generic straws. No matter what you do with them, you don't just suck them.
Not recommended for dolphins. You should throw that. That'd be funny.
Now, welcome back.
I was completely lost.
And it's just supposed to be some advertising. Funny.
My pick for number 5 is Handsome Jack from Tales from the Borderlands, and also Borderlands 2. Now, I love Handsome Jack. I'm straight, but he's pretty damn handsome, and he's a pretty.
He better be, otherwise his name is kind of misleading.
I mean, he's a badass. I mean, he almost kills an entire planet, and he basically is this evil dude who is so filled with greed and corruption. In Tales from the Borderlands, you can see just how angry he is, and that doesn't even touch the Borderlands element. I mean, I love him. He's awesome, and he will always hold a special place in my heart of how badass he is.
I mean, also,
no, you're good.
But also in the Tales from Borderlands, you get a more inside look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you do.
Into them. You don't get like the full picture necessarily, but you do get to see some of the reasons why he kind of went,
insane.
Yeah, why he went crazy. But there is no revelation for him. There's nothing that makes him stop doing what he's doing. He's consistently being himself, even after being dead, because he's not even alive in Tales from the Borderlands. He's just a computer program.
Not to mention he's got like the coolest name for a pet horse ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
No. The thing with like Handsome Jack though too is like I remember him kind of freaking me out as a kid only because like he wears like the mask on his face.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I honestly thought it looked like it was like bolted to his face.
It
Like,
does
like
look
the way
like
it
that.
looks like
It does.
with the size and stuff like that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
this dude's crazy. He's just bolting a mask to his face. It reminds me of like the Joker in one of those old comic books where he rips off the dude's face, staples it onto his face.
He reminds me a lot of the Joker.
Yeah, I mean he kind of has that feel to him too a little bit.
Like he's serious, but also batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Like he's got a reason for doing it, but you'll never understand it.
Right, and like as far as the player goes, you don't really see the reason. Like you're like,
No.
it just sounds like he's crazy out of his mind, but like he clearly has some motives behind what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
So yeah, no, I can get behind Handsome Jack. I love Borderlands series personally. I love Handsome Jack. I think he really ties that story together.
He does.
Sure. Although I think the best of it was Claptrap.
Yeah, Claptrap
No.
is the most.
Damn it, why didn't I put Claptrap?
Because Claptrap is not necessarily.
He is a villain.
He's about as much of a villain as Tom Nook.
No. I know even a better villain. Hey, listen!
No! Go away.
No, that is a villain.
No, go away.
What about you, Ambrose? What's your number?
Okay, number 5 is one that I actually kind of struggled with a little bit, and it's actually a little surprising even to me that I put him as high as I did. But I picked Master Xehanort from Kingdom Hearts, the Kingdom Hearts series in general. He kind of is a little bit there everywhere. And actually, I almost put him in just because if I didn't put Kingdom Hearts villain in, you'd think I was stupid because I love Kingdom Hearts. It's my favorite game series, so I should put Xehanort in there.
Well, you did put Maleficent, or no?
Maleficent was an honorable mention. She would have been. Yeah. But after thinking about it a little bit more, I realized Xehanort really is like a really good villain in a way. And even though he doesn't actually show up as his real form until Birth by Sleep, which is like 4 or 5 games in, you can clearly see he's throughout the whole series. Like, no spoilers for anybody who hasn't played Kingdom Hearts yet, because you really should. It's a great game. And despite what people might tell you, Kingdom Hearts 3 is still a pretty good game. But you can clearly see from the beginning, he's manipulating the whole story. And of course, people complain that Kingdom Hearts has a really convoluted story, and it does, but if you play the games, you understand the story better.
Right.
So,
well, that's the same thing with any Final Fantasy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is if you don't play it from the beginning and play it all the way through and actually pay attention, you are going to miss a lot of shit.
Yeah. So even though Xehanort isn't like a typical villain, he's not super strong necessarily, he's not like a real badass necessarily, but the fact that I think in my opinion, he gets points. The fact that he is clearly like a mastermind. Like, he manipulates the entire series.
He manipulates people from a distance, essentially.
Yeah, and so personally, and that's also part of it too, is that I put Maleficent as an honorable mention. If I put her in, she probably would have been on here too. But even in the first game, Xehanort then actually is the form of Ansem in that game.
Yep.
Manipulates even Maleficent from that point too, like taking what you thought was the villain and just making her his pawn.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think as far as villains go, that's a really good one. I think the fact that it's an overarching story throughout the whole game, I think is just really good right there.
I would say so.
So number 4, PasMorning.
All right. Well, this one I wouldn't be surprised if it is on your list, Ambrose. But Ganon from the Zelda series.
So low? Come on, man, it's Ganon.
Well, he's number 4. That's not bad.
Well, that's high. I mean, because number 1's the highest.
Right.
Well, low as in it's not. It's
not 2 or 1. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he's a very memorable villain. For anyone who doesn't know the Zelda series, Ganon is the antagonist in most of them, and not necessarily the same exact Ganon. They have a reincarnation system.
Well, actually, it's established that in Zelda, Ganondorf is the same Ganondorf.
Okay.
He just gets resurrected, so he's the same character.
Right.
But there's different versions of him still.
Yeah, he's the reincarnation of some kind of demon who I can't... Demise, yep. And then, it doesn't matter how many times you take out Ganon or how many times you save the day, there's a whole new world, a whole new adventure.
A whole new world.
Yeah. I tried pulling that one back.
You read my mind, Ambrose.
Yeah, but so Ganon ends up just coming back. You can't get rid of him. He makes it very well known. You can stop him now, but he's coming back later.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, Ganondorf, Ganon specifically, or Ganondorf, or is it kind of both of them?
They're kind of both.
Because they're kind of different in some regards.
Right. Any iteration of Ganon, whether he's Ganon or Ganondorf or whatever, just Ganon.
And what's even cool about Ganondorf is even in the games where he's not the main villain, he's kind of is still in some regards. He's still kind of in
sometimes he's not even the villain until near the end where he takes the other person's glory.
Like Twilight Princess.
Right. Yeah, someone else was the main villain until, Ganon got bored and
Ganon's all right, I'm done. And he just killed it, just awesome basically.
Yep.
No, I agree. Ganondorf definitely up there. So
sure.
Number 4.
I'd ask you for your opinion, Fuzzy, but I doubt you know this.
When you said Ganondorf,
I
was thinking of
no, it's not Gandalf. It's not Gandalf. Go away.
Yeah.
No. My number 4 pick is the great mighty Pooh. Because the thing is...
Got a repeat pick over here.
You do. Even though he is kind of a crappy villain. His song...
He is a crappy villain.
All of the puns.
Right. He is crappy. He's literal crap.
But that song will always be stuck in my head and I'll be singing it. I mean, he is crappy and all that, but at the same time, he's not really the best villain, but I had to put him in there just for comedic relief because I do like him. In fact, I actually thought that that Weird Al Yankovic actually sang his part, but I guess that was Ace.
No.
So, it's interesting, though. You talk about the song, and I talked about the song earlier, obviously. After we discussed doing a top 10 video of the top 10 video game villains, and I chose Great Mighty Pooh, I had his song, the next day at work, I was singing that song in my head, for at least an hour, just on loop. Problem is, I only know the first 2 lines of the song. Yeah, I only know the first 2 lines of the song, but I had those 2 lines of the song on repeat in my head for an hour.
If I'm not mistaken, Conquer Live and Reloaded bleeped a lot of bleeped a lot of the words in the song. So if you want to enjoy it in its full glory, definitely play the original version.
Yeah,
or I might even put it up on the screen.
Yeah, definitely watch it. Definitely go for the N64 version, because the Rare Replay version also bleeps.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things got bleeped in Conquer. But it's interesting, though. Another villain that I almost put as an honorable mention, but only in this regard, is there's a character in Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I don't know if you guys have played that game.
No,
one for the Switch. But they actually
heard of it.
They have a villain similar to the Great Mighty Pooh. His name is Phantom, and he's a reference to Phantom of the Opera. He's an opera singer villain who sings songs about Mario games, and it's kind of fun. And I love the villain only because he reminded me of the Great Mighty Pooh, the way he sung.
Right.
So I didn't even put him as an honorable mention because that's the only reason I liked him was because he reminded me of the Great Mighty Pooh. But it's a really great fun boss.
Ambrose, what about you?
So I'm gonna step on PasMorning's toes a little bit here because one of the characters he put in as an honorable mention, I'm putting right up here on the list. Skull Kid / Majora is my number 4.
I'm not surprised. That's kind of the reason why I didn't pick him, because I kind of figured someone would have.
Yeah. Well, the reason I like the character is because from the beginning of the game, you can clearly see he's like a child. Obviously, his name's Skull Kid, and he's lonely. He lost all of his friends, and he's broken. He wants some kind of companionship, and that's part of what makes the Majora's Mask aspect of him so terrifying. Because and you mentioned how you thought it was like a possession almost, and I was actually talking to a buddy of mine at school the other day that I kind of feel like the Majora's Mask Skull Kid relationship is more akin to just manipulation as opposed to full on possession.
Right.
Because I think it's implied Skull Kid's still in his right mind, like he still knows what's happening, but he's being corrupted by the mask.
Well, isn't that essentially what possession is?
I always kind of associate possession as like full on taking over,
completely cutting the other person out, and taking over,
which isn't necessarily always the case. Because sometimes even in the possession movies and stuff like that, you see there's still humanity,
right?
But I thought of it because Skull Kid, and I do consider Skull Kid a villain, even though he's not the villain. It's Majora is the villain.
Majora's the one.
But I mean, Skull Kid's still kind of an asshole.
Right.
But in the game, first of all, he does send the big ass moon down to destroy Clock Town, and that's kind of his thing. Like Majora helped him do that, but it was kind of his idea because he wanted revenge on the 4 giants type thing. Right. I'm still a little fuzzy on the story. I haven't played in a long time, but that's the basic gist of how it is. Yeah. And I love Skull Kid as a villain. Plus, he gets major points because he's got the creepiest freaking laugh.
He does.
Besides probably Kefka. He's got the creepiest video game villain laugh of all video game villains, in my opinion. Other than Kefka.
Yeah, it's the blood-curdling scream that he does. When you first see him floating underneath the moon. That was the scream. Yeah, he's freaky. Yeah.
So, while you put him as an honorable mention, I definitely got to say Skull Kid Majora is definitely up there on the top of my list. All right, PasMorning, number 3. Number 3.
Trevor from GTA 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't he one of the main characters?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is a murderous psychopath.
So, well, okay,
yeah. But that's the thing about GTA games is you are very rarely being the good guy. And even if you are the good guy, it's for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
Trevor, as you find, the first moment you see Trevor, he's porking someone's friend and then retaliates by straight up stomping someone's skull in and then goes and murders all that guy's friends. Then you later find out that the person that's following him around, he murdered all that dude's friends. The guy was kind of an idiot and just assumed that they left town and ditched him. But no, Trevor murdered them all. And then regales a story about how he sodomized his hockey coach with a hockey stick.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's a scene in there where there's an interrogation scene.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah. Interrogation scene where you get to play as Trevor and pick, your tools of choice to get the info out of this dude. And he doesn't hold back. Yeah. So I could go on and on about how fucked up in the head Trevor is. There is one aspect that he has, is that he is incredibly loyal to those he considers friends, despite the fact that he's quite messed up in the head. So yeah, he's selfish or whatever, but does often come to the aid of those he sees as friend or family, despite being a ball of anger 100% of the time. Yeah.
Unlike other GTA games, I didn't play hardly any of the story of GTA 5. Okay. I played the online mode mostly. So I don't. So from what I've seen of Trevor, he is a psychopathic.
Yeah, because you do get to see him in a few missions that you do online and stuff.
So I can definitely get what you're saying. Like even just that interrogation scene alone, like I can say, probably deserves to be up there.
He probably deserves to be number 1, really.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, probably some better choices for number 1.
Maybe, true.
Right.
Alright, Fuzzy, number 3.
My number 3 pick is the Skitters from Perfect Dark.
Okay, what is that?
Basically, it's an alien that comes down to Earth, and they work with the Datadyne Corporation, with Cassandra DeVries. And basically, they can turn into humans. They can cloak themselves to hide from other humans, so you think that they're not actually aliens. Now, they're in a war against the good aliens who have come to the Carrington Institute to help fight Dr. Daniel Carrington and Joanna Dark. But still, these guys and the Scatter King, when you go to that planet to kill him, he's pretty badass.
Cool.
Like you just nerded out a little bit over there.
Yeah. He does sound interesting. I have played the Perfect Dark game. I did not get nearly that far in it. I did play Perfect Dark 0 and beat that, but that game was very unmemorable to me.
That game doesn't exist. What are you talking about?
It's just gibberish.
You don't know what they're talking about over there. It's just like blacked out for 10 seconds. Yeah. Alright. Cool. My number 3 is actually a little bit of a surprise for some fans probably, but I picked Dracula from the Castlevania series.
That's not a surprise because he's fucking Dracula.
Yeah, well, some people would probably think, he should be number 1. And technically, I'm sort of bending my rule a little bit here because Dracula doesn't originate in Castlevania, but this version of Dracula does. So I'm still good.
Right.
There.
Well, he's still a video game villain.
Yeah.
So it still works.
So Dracula, though, it's been a long time since I played Castlevania games, so I'm still a little fuzzy on how he kind of works in the game. But basically, he's Dracula, so he's a vampire who's all about.
Who sparkles?
No, it does not sparkle. Go away. No, so he's a vampire who's all about trying to drain life from the innocents and all that stuff. And he's almost like cursed to have to do battle with the Belmont clan. Simon and Richter and all them.
Right.
In the sense that, like, every time he comes back, the Belmonts are like, alright, we gotta go take out Dracula.
Right. The Belmonts, of course, being, like, the monster hunting
the demon
family.
Hunters. Yeah, the demon hunters. And so, but some of his boss fights are, like, really fun boss fights. Like, you get, like, really intense trying to fight him and stuff like that. You gotta use, like, everything in your arsenal to try to take him down. And, honestly, he's just imposing, too. Like, you think Dracula, like, he's a badass. And he dresses nice, so he's, like, a really good character. In fact, when you first meet him in one of the games, he's literally just sitting on his throne because he can't even be bothered to stand up right away. He's just like, whatever, no big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they added him as a boss fight in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is really good rendition of how he plays, how he was in the game too. So I thought that was a really nice touch. I like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, in case you didn't notice.
That is a fantastic game.
So yeah, Dracula number 3. He would have been higher, but I think my number 1 and 2 kind of speak for themselves as to why he couldn't get any higher.
Okay.
What about you, PasMorning? What's your number 2?
Number 2.
Okay, yeah. Number 2, from one of my favorite childhood games, and probably explains a lot about me, The Great Mighty Pooh.
The Great Mighty Pooh.
The Great Mighty. You're going to get that song stuck in your head.
What are you talking? If anyone's ever played it, it never left.
Right.
So, yeah, no, The Great Mighty Pooh is just, he's a giant, he's the most nonsensical boss possible. He sings, not to mention he is a giant sentient pile of shit, like a literal pile of shit that you have to fight for virtually no reason. You just walk in and the fight happens. There's no plot, there's no specific thing. I mean, yeah, you want the money, but like...
I mean, that's kind of reminiscent of all of Conquer, though. There's no point in what you're doing half the time.
Yeah, Conquer just kind of walks into some situation and then just, does it. And yeah, you just walk into it. First you gotta feed him sweet corn, which that is hilarious. First seeing that little piece of sweet corn just flopping around in that super soupy shit, screaming in agony, and then Great Mighty Pooh pops up and starts doing his song. Oh yeah, very memorable boss for me. Just in the fact that he's Like, I don't even know what to say about him other than what I already have. He is so nonsensical. A boss that you can't really take seriously, but...
You're also not supposed to.
Right, you're not supposed to. But yeah, for sure. Great Mighty Pooh. And not much else I can say on it that hasn't already, because it's 3 for 3 so far. So
It says a lot when a character shows up on all 3 of our lists, even if it is in different places. Like, it shows a lot what kind of creativity went into creating a boss fight like that.
Fun fact about the Green Mighty Pooh.
He's not voiced by Weird Al Yankovic.
No. Fun fact about the Green Mighty Pooh. Electronic Arts references him because that is their spirit animal.
really.
That's just rude. Anyways, Fuzzy, number 2.
Hugo Vasquez from Tales from the Borderlands.
He forgot the game.
No.
Hugo Vasquez. Oh, okay. Sorry, continue.
Now, the only big reason that I like him is because I am a huge fan. Patrick Warburton. I love a lot of the work that he's done. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. If I wanted to, I would download every single episode of Family Guy, and I would just listen to Hey Peter nonstop.
And he's also the voice of Kronk from Ambrose.
Which is arguably his favorite role in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
My favorite role.
I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
But I just love him. He's awesome. So you get number 2.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, Patrick Warburton gets points just by default. He's one of them voice actors too that like he's very good at what he does, but he doesn't really get the recognition he deserves in a lot of ways.
And he was very comedic in that too. Well, that's what Borderlands 2 is. It's serious, but so far not serious.
I mean, I love in Tales from the Borderlands the part where you literally get into a finger gun fight in the middle of the cafeteria.
Yeah,
it's like the best part of the game.
It is.
Wearing the face of Hugo Vasquez.
Right.
Also, rest in peace, Telltale Games. We miss you deeply.
Yeah, I don't really care that much.
Yeah, they closed down.
I just want The Wolf Among Us too.
What about you? What is your...
Alright, so again, gonna step on some toes a little bit, and I'm gonna preface this by saying
that going for piggies.
The other honorable mention that I was gonna mention was Sephiroth,
yeah.
but the person who beats him out is Kefka Palazzo from Final Fantasy VI. Who? Kefka Palazzo.
Isn't he the super creepy clown guy?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I never played that game. I own it, but I've never played it. But yeah.
Kefka is, as far as Final Fantasy villains go, Sephiroth might be the most memorable, but Kefka is probably the most like his motivation the whole game. Like you don't really know what his motivation is because he's a crazy clown, whatever. But his motivation is basically he just wants to be a god. Like he just wants to just be all powerful. And the reason why he's at number 2 is that he's probably the only villain on my list who actually succeeds at his plan. Partway through the game, he tries to destroy the world, and he does. Like, it just does it. Like, and it's a weird thing. Like, wait a minute, what?
Right.
And the game's not over, obviously at that point.
Yeah, some stuff happens, but yeah, he accomplishes his goal in one way or another.
Yeah, and so you mentioned earlier that Sephiroth's got his own theme song, One Winged Angel, which is probably still my favorite theme song of Final Fantasy. But Dancing Mad, which is Kefka's theme song. If you want to play a little sample of it, that'd be cool. Really, really good the way to go about it. Especially because Kefka's boss fight, you literally fight like a tower of Kefka, basically. It talks about, or not, it doesn't talk about, like it references sort of how Kefka got to be a god in a way. Like it shows sort of the journey of the game in that way.
Wow.
And it's a really good boss fight. Like as much as I love Final Fantasy boss fights, villains, I love Sephiroth, I love Kuja from Final Fantasy 9, and I do love there's not really a main villain necessarily of 10, but I like
that one does go everywhere.
Yeah. Yu Yevon is supposed to be the main villain, but he sucks, so let's not talk about him.
Right.
But Kefka, like, he's just amazing. And like I mentioned earlier with Skull Kid, Kefka has a super creepy freaking laugh.
Sure.
So yeah, Kefka, number 2. A lot of people say that Pennywise from It is a lot of the reasons why they're afraid of clowns, but I think Kefka is probably a pretty good reason to be afraid of clowns too.
I would see that, yeah.
In fact, I played a bard character in D&D one time where I was playing as the psychotic clown character, and I did a voice that was supposed to be an homage to Kefka, even though we don't know what his voice is, but that's not the point.
Right.
Alright, the big one. Number 1. PasMorning.
Whatever.
Your favorite video game villain is...
Sin from Final Fantasy X.
Why do you like Sin?
With a name like Sin, you know he got to be pretty good.
He is... Alright, Sin is the first and last boss that you fight. Sin is the whole reason why you get put into the situation that you are in. I'm not going to try not to spoil or whatever, but some stuff happens in the beginning. Huge, epic, cut scene. Buildings falling over. Monsters flying from the sky. Huge, giant, disformed wormhole opens up in in the sky. And yeah, so Sin is like the first thing that you fight, and is essentially the last one that you fight. It's been a minute since I played the game, but I'm pretty sure it was his intention was to essentially destroy the world.
Yeah.
And and with a name like Sin, it really kind of almost humanizes this inhuman creature.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes sense though too, because in the game he basically is an embodiment of evil, more or less.
Yes, he is the straight up embodiment of evil that takes over someone else, whatever. Won't get into that one.
No,
yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't really have considered Sin necessarily, but the fact that you mentioned how he's apparent throughout the game, that makes a lot more sense to me. Like, it didn't occur to me that was a thing, but literally, beginning of the game, he's the reason that launches the story, and at the very end, he's your basic end all goal of what you're doing, even though he's not technically the final boss fight.
Right.
But I mean, semantics, however you want to say it. He is, he isn't, whatever. But it's and the whole story is based around taking down Sin, and so that makes sense to me. So
now, Seymour was going to be, was almost going to be on the list, but like no matter how many times you got to fight Seymour, Sin is always your thought. If only to see like the destruction that it can do. We did it in a different video where we discussed, like the first time you actually get to see a part of Sin, it is a small, minute part of him that easily
whale fins.
Yeah, that easily dwarfs the ship that you are on. Yeah. So
not to mention too, when you fight Seymour, almost all of it leads up to Sin anyways.
Yep.
So even though Seymour is a badass villain in of himself, Sin is still the end goal.
Yes, very much so.
So cool, yeah, I can get behind that. Fuzzy, number one.
My number one pick is Wolf O'Donnell from every Star Fox game. I love Wolf, and I also love Fox from what I was talking about. Good guys here. There's really not much to say. He's just somebody I really admire. He's a really badass dude, and
sometimes you don't need 1,000 reasons.
Right. Sometimes the reason is just he's a cool character.
Yeah.
I can get behind it. I didn't play many of the earlier Star Fox games. Yeah. The space driving through space kind of games.
It does kind of get a little bit annoying when you're flying through space and all that, which is something I didn't like, but I forgot which one it was for the GameCube, but you could go out and you could explore and all that. That was pretty fun.
Star Fox Adventures, I think.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, you might be alone in that one, because most fans of Star Fox...
Well, I don't remember too much about it.
I'm not necessarily a fan of Star Fox games, but I liked that one.
Well,
I never got to play
I liked that one too, but and it's a good game, but part of the reason people don't like it is because it's a game that wasn't Star Fox, and then Star Fox just kind of got plastered in like last minute type thing.
Right.
But no, so yes, Wolf is pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's the first time you get to see Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
she's hot.
She is hot. Oh, she is.
Ambrose is just staring at us like, oh.
Whatever, he knows it's true.
Anyways, so Wolf. Yeah, Wolf was pretty badass. I can get behind that. Yeah. And I recently picked him up in Super Smash Bros. Because I originally didn't like his character that much, but he's pretty badass. I like him.
I didn't like really getting behind the Star Fox characters in Smash Bros. Is hard, but
it's worth it.
They're top tier. I know Wolf was the top tier character in the older ones.
He was the one that him and Solid Snake were like the two that everybody was begging to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I always played Wolf back on Smash games.
The Brawl,
any of the he's from the OG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get to play in the first Smash.
Well, Fox
game.
is, but Wolf is.
Yeah, sorry, I confused that.
But Ambrose, what is your number one pick that you cannot change for anything else?
Well, this is the series that I double dipped on, even though I tried to keep one franchise.
It is hard.
Ganondorf.
You shall not pass.
As mentioned,
Ganondorf, not Gandalf.
As mentioned before with King K. Rool, Bowser, and Team Rocket, part of what gives him the edge is that, for one thing, Ocarina of Time, probably one of my favorite games of all time.
Most Zelda fans would agree.
And I remember playing... Well, I didn't play the game as a kid, but I remember sitting with my sister while she was playing it. And I watched everything she did. And Ganondorf legitimately scared the shit out of me as a child. I'm like... The game came out in 97, so I was probably 4 or 5 when I first started watching her play it. And that dude gave me the chills. And so Ganondorf, in that front, he's one of the first villains I ever had an actual connection with in that fight. Not to mention, the sheer stuff that he could do in the games is just crazy. Like, he destroys all of the castle at one point and keeps Zelda hostage. The boss fight in Twilight Princess is kind of the one thing that keeps drawing me back to him, because it's just one of the best final boss fights in the game, in my opinion. Just the idea of having a one-on-one sword fight with him, and he's doing all this stuff, and not to mention he survives being executed at one point, and literally, like, kills one of the sages while he's doing that.
Right. Yeah, he not only breaks free from his bondage, it actually goes and kills one of his captors.
And as mentioned earlier, he's the underlying character throughout the entire series. Every game in the series, even if he's not prominent figure, he's the one that everyone's trying to get. Demise, his early incarnation, eventually gets reincarnated as Ganondorf. He's like the whole thing there. In games like Minish Cap, Vati's whole thing is he's trying to resurrect Ganon. The whole thing revolves around Ganon being this badass character. Personally, I don't really like his pig form that much. I think it looks kind of weird. But even in some games, like,
but that also seems pretty original.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool with the way
giant pig monster form.
Yeah,
and the different iterations that you see of the pig monster, like in Hyrule Warriors or whatever that, I can't think of what it was, where he's a huge. Yep. So seeing him I don't really like him necessarily in the early ones, but the pig monster form was a lot better in the later ones for sure.
So yeah, the fact of, not to mention, he looks badass as hell in most of his incarnations. Twilight Princess, again, especially. Twilight Princess is one that's like iffy for some people. They like it or they don't, but you can't deny how awesome he looks.
Sure.
Not to mention, he's got the most badass eyebrows ever. Eyebrows literally go into his hair. I don't know how the hell that works, but
if there is one thing that you can always remember about Ganon, it's the fiery red mullet that he has in every single game.
Yes. So Ganondorf is top villain, hands down. You guys don't get another say. It's Ganondorf.
Alright, this was our top 10 list. Let us know if you like it down below, but wherever you are, we hope that you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. I'm Fuzzy.
I'm Ambrose.
And we will see you next time.